Your father traded you for land, now strip and bend over, billionaire orders his new virgin property. Hello everyone, before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's dive into today's story. The young woman's life was about to change forever. Emma Brooks stood in the warm, elegant New York City restaurant, feeling like she didn't belong. The soft hum of conversation and clinking silverware filled the air, but all she could focus on was the reflection of herself in the glossy window. Her second-hand dress and scuffed shoes only amplified the deep feeling of inadequacy she'd been trying to suppress. Still, she had promised Jenny, her best friend, that she'd go through with the blind date. She took a deep breath, straightened her posture, and forced a smile. "You can do this," she whispered to herself. Her heart raced as she scanned the tables. Then, her eyes landed on him. He sat alone, a sharply dressed man with dark, neatly styled hair, engrossed in his phone. That must be him, she thought, swallowing her nerves. Stepping forward, she walked over with a shaky but determined step. "Hi, you must be Kevin. I'm Emma. Nice to meet you." The man looked up, his gaze confused for a moment. He blinked, clearly not expecting her. Hi, Emma," he finally said, his voice a bit strained. Emma misread his hesitation as shyness and slid into the seat across from him, doing her best to steady her nerves. "I know this is awkward. Blind dates are weird, right? Jenny told me you might be a little quiet, so don't worry, I can talk enough for both of us." The man, Liam Parker, opened his mouth to correct her but hesitated. His business associate had just texted to cancel their meeting, and something about Emma's earnest smile made him pause. She wasn't like the polished socialites he usually dealt with, the ones who only wanted his money or status. Instead, she seemed genuine. Liam couldn't help but smile faintly. "Right. Blind dates are something else," he replied, a hint of amusement in his voice. Emma laughed nervously, taking a sip of water. "Tell me about it. Jenny's been trying to set me up for months, but I've been too busy with work, you know." Liam, genuinely curious now, leaned back in his chair. "What do you do?" Emma bit her lip, fidgeting with the edge of her napkin. "I'm a waitress. Not exactly glamorous, but it pays the bills. Well, most of them anyway." She paused, glancing down at her phone. "Enough about me, though. What do you do?" Liam hesitated before responding. "I work in tech," he said vaguely, offering her a polite but non-committal smile. Emma grinned. "Tech, who? Like coding and apps and stuff? I'm terrible with computers." Liam chuckled softly, a little surprised by her lack of pretense. "Something like that," he said. The conversation continued smoothly after that. Emma, more relaxed now, shared anecdotes about her shifts at the diner, her struggles with paying rent, and her dream of one day opening her own art studio. For the first time in a long while, Liam found himself genuinely enjoying a conversation. It wasn't what he expected from a blind date, but it felt real. Emma, despite the awkward start, had a warmth that made him laugh more than he had in months. Just as Emma was about to ask him more about his work in tech, her phone buzzed. She glanced at it and her heart sank. The message read, "Hey Emma, where are you? I'm at table 7, looking forward to meeting you. Kevin." Emma looked up at Liam, her face flushing with embarrassment. "Oh my God," she muttered under her breath. She stood up abruptly, grabbing her coat. "I'm so sorry. I must have sat at the wrong table. This is so embarrassing." Liam stood too, but she was already turning to leave. "Wait, Emma," he said, his voice stopping her in her tracks. "It's okay." But Emma was already out the door, her face red with mortification. Liam watched her go, a strange feeling stirring in his chest. he had meant to correct her from the beginning, but now, as she disappeared from sight, he found himself wondering if he'd ever see her again, and why the thought bothered him more than it should. After Emma hurriedly left the restaurant, her face flushed with embarrassment. She didn't realize how much the encounter with Liam had affected her. She had promised herself she'd forget about the awkward mistake, but something lingered in her mind. She was used to the world seeing her as just another struggling waitress, but Liam had made her feel something more, like she mattered. She tried to shake off the thought as she walked back to her small apartment, the cold night air biting at her skin. She wasn't sure what she was looking for in the encounter, but it certainly wasn't what had just happened. Was it really that big of a deal? She had only sat at the wrong table, after all. The next morning, as Emma finished her shift at the diner, she was going over her usual routine in her head. Pay the bills, find time to sketch, take care of her mom, the same endless cycle. She didn't expect anything to change, and honestly, she didn't think much about Liam anymore. He was just another man she had met once. But then, her phone buzzed with a message that made her freeze. "Hi Emma, this is Liam. I was the guy at the restaurant the other night. I know it was a mix-up, but I'd really like to see you again. Coffee maybe." Emma stared at the screen for a moment, trying to process the words. Coffee? With him? The guy she had awkwardly run away from? A small smile tugged at her lips, but she couldn't deny the flutter of excitement that ran through her. Maybe it wasn't the worst mistake after all. She glanced at her watch, realizing she had a few minutes before her next shift started. She quickly typed a reply, her fingers shaking slightly. "Okay, coffee sounds nice." The next day, Emma walked into the cozy little cafe Liam had suggested. It was a small place tucked away on a quiet street, with soft music playing in the background and the smell of fresh coffee wafting through the air. She spotted Liam immediately, sitting at a corner table, dressed casually in jeans and a button-up shirt. He looked different. Less like the polished CEO she had imagined and more like an ordinary guy, someone she could actually talk to. When she approached, Liam looked up, his face lighting up in a way that surprised her. "Hey, Emma," he said, standing up to greet her. His voice was warm, and there was something genuine about it. Emma felt a little more at ease now. "Hey, Liam," she said, sitting down. "Thanks for inviting me." "Of course," he said, smiling. "I'm glad you agreed. I thought we could just talk, no pressure. No more blind dates or awkward mix-ups." Emma laughed softly, feeling a little lighter. "Yeah, that was pretty embarrassing," she admitted. "I didn't think I'd ever see you again, honestly." Liam's smile faded for a moment, his expression turning thoughtful. "I wasn't expecting that either. But I don't know, there was something about you that made me want to see you again." Emma raised an eyebrow, surprised by his honesty. "Something about me?" Liam hesitated for a second, then shrugged. "You're different. Not like the women I'm used to meeting. You're real." Emma blinked, taken aback. She wasn't sure what to say. I don't know what to say to that. I'm just me." "Exactly," Liam said, his tone soft but sincere. "And that's what makes you interesting." They spent the next hour talking, the conversation flowing much more easily than Emma had expected. She found herself opening up about her life, her dreams, and her struggles. She talked about her passion for art, how she dreamed of one day having her own studio, and how hard it was to make ends meet. Liam listened intently, asking questions, showing a genuine interest in what she had to say. For the first time in a long time, Emma felt seen. She didn't feel like just another waitress or just another person in the crowd. With Liam, she felt heard. As they finished their coffee, Liam stood up and gave her a small smile. "Thanks for this, Emma. I really enjoyed talking to you." Emma smiled back, feeling a strange warmth spread through her chest. "Me too. I'd like to see you again, if you're up for it," Liam said, his voice a little more serious now. Emma nodded. "Yeah, I'd like that." They exchanged numbers, and as they walked out of the cafe together, Emma couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement mixed with uncertainty. She wasn't sure where this would lead, but she was willing to find out. She had no idea how much this chance encounter would change her life, but she knew one thing for sure: she was starting to feel like maybe she wasn't as invisible as she had once thought. End of part 2. It had been a few days since Emma and Liam had met at the cafe, and Emma couldn't stop thinking about him. It was strange, really. She wasn't the type to get swept up in the excitement of a new connection, especially with someone like him. But there was something about Liam that felt different. He wasn't the typical rich guy she had come to expect from her fleeting encounters with the wealthy. He seemed genuine, interested in her thoughts, her life, her struggles. They had texted a few times, but today was the first time they'd made plans to meet again. Emma stood in front of her small apartment, holding her phone in one hand and checking the time with the other. She was nervous. She had agreed to meet Liam at a local park, somewhere casual, where they could talk without the pressure of fancy restaurants or corporate events. Her heart was racing, though she couldn't quite put her finger on why. Was it just because she liked him, or was it something more? She shoved her phone into her pocket and headed out the door, adjusting her scarf around her neck. The chilly autumn air was crisp, and the leaves on the trees were changing colors, painting the streets with shades of red, orange, and gold. It was one of those perfect fall days, and yet, she felt a little out of place, like something big was about to happen, something she wasn't sure she was ready for. When she arrived at the park, she spotted Liam almost immediately. He was sitting on a bench near the fountain, casually dressed in a sweater and jeans, his hands resting on the bench beside him. He looked up as she approached and stood with a smile, the same warm smile that had put her at ease the first time they'd met. "Hey, Emma," he greeted her. "You look beautiful." Emma felt her cheeks flush, but she smiled back. "Thanks, you look good too." Liam chuckled softly, but there was a certain vulnerability in his eyes that she hadn't noticed before. It made her heart beat a little faster. "I'm glad we could do this," he said, his voice low and sincere. "I've been looking forward to it." They sat down on the bench together, and for a while, neither of them said anything. The sounds of birds chirping and leaves rustling in the wind filled the silence, creating a peaceful backdrop for their conversation. Emma could feel the tension between them, but it wasn't uncomfortable, just a bit of nervous energy that neither of them knew how to navigate. "So," Liam said after a moment, breaking the silence, "how's your art coming along? Have you worked on anything new?" Emma blinked in surprise. She hadn't expected him to ask about her art. It was a part of her life that she didn't often share with people, especially strangers. But somehow, with Liam, it felt different. "Actually," she began, her voice hesitant at first, "I've been working on a few sketches. Mostly just small stuff, nothing serious. I've been trying to find the time to work on something bigger, but with everything going on," Liam nodded, listening intently. "I can't imagine how hard it must be to balance everything. But I think it's amazing that you're still doing it. Not many people would keep pushing for something they love when things are tough." His words struck a chord with Emma. She hadn't expected him to understand, but somehow, he did. She found herself opening up a little more, sharing her dreams of one day having her own studio, of making art her full-time career. The more she talked, the more she realized how easy it was to talk to him. He wasn't just listening, he was truly hearing her. "I know it's a long shot," she said, her voice trailing off, "but I've always wanted to create something that could make a difference. Something that makes people feel something, you know." Liam turned toward her, his expression soft but serious. "I get it," he said. "And I believe you'll get there. You're talented, Emma. Don't let anyone or anything make you doubt that." Her heart skipped a beat at his words, and for a moment, she forgot about all the insecurities that had been clouding her mind for years. Here, in this moment, with Liam, she felt like she had a real chance to make her dreams come true. They continued talking, sharing more about their lives and their pasts, but it wasn't just the conversation that kept Emma coming back, it was the way Liam made her feel. For once, she didn't feel like just another person in the crowd, struggling to make ends meet. She felt important, seen, and heard. As the sun began to set, casting a soft orange glow over the park, Liam stood up and extended his hand to her. "I had a great time today, Emma." "I really did." Emma stood as well, smiling up at him. "Me too. It's nice to just relax for once." "You know," Liam said, his voice low and a little hesitant, "I'd really like to see you again. If you're up for it." Emma felt a warm flutter in her chest. "I'd like that," she replied, her voice steady but her heart racing. As they walked toward the exit of the park, Emma felt a sense of hope bubbling up inside her. Maybe this was the start of something real, something she hadn't expected but was beginning to believe in. She didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in a long time, she felt like it could be something worth fighting for. It had been 2 weeks since Emma and Liam's last meeting, and in that time, their connection had only grown stronger. They had met a few more times, each time feeling more natural than the last. The awkwardness from their first encounter had long faded, and what was left was something real, something Emma wasn't sure how to label yet. The more time she spent with Liam, the more she realized how much she enjoyed his company. But there was a part of her that remained guarded. She had never been the type to open up so easily, especially not about her dreams, her past, or the struggles that seemed to weigh her down. Yet, with him, it felt different. Liam had a way of making her feel comfortable, like she could be herself without any pretensions. That afternoon, Emma walked to the local art gallery where she had a few of her sketches displayed. It wasn't much, just a small showcase in a back corner, but it meant everything to her. She had worked tirelessly to get her art out there, and this was the first step toward her dream. She had invited Liam to come and see her work, hoping he would show up. She didn't know why, but she wanted him to see this side of her, the side she didn't usually share with anyone. When she arrived, she took a moment to stand in front of her sketches, admiring the way the colors and shapes came together. It was still so surreal to her, the idea of being recognized for her art. But there was a deep sense of pride in her heart as she looked at the pieces. This was her. This was her passion made real. Just then, Liam walked in, his presence undeniable. He wore his usual effortless style, a casual jacket and jeans, looking both comfortable and elegant at the same time. His gaze immediately found hers, and he smiled. It was the kind of smile that made Emma's heart skip a beat, even after all this time. "Hey," he greeted her softly, his voice carrying a warmth that instantly put her at ease. "Hi," Emma replied, feeling a little nervous. She had invited him here, but now that he was standing in front of her, she felt a rush of uncertainty. "Thanks for coming." Liam nodded, his eyes scanning the walls. "These are incredible, Emma. You've got real talent." Her cheeks flushed at the compliment. She wasn't used to people acknowledging her work in such a genuine way. "Thanks. It's a lot of work, but I love it." Liam took a few steps closer to one of the pieces, studying it with a thoughtful expression. "I can tell. There's something about your work, something raw. It feels real." Emma smiled, feeling both proud and vulnerable at the same time. "I've always wanted to create something that makes people feel something, you know? Art isn't just about colors or shapes. It's about connecting with people." Liam turned toward her, his gaze intense but kind. "I think you're doing exactly that." They spent the next few hours walking through the gallery, talking about her art, about life, and about their dreams. It felt easy, too easy, like they had known each other for much longer than they actually had. The more they talked, the more Emma found herself opening up, sharing pieces of herself she had kept hidden for so long. After the gallery closed, they walked out together into the cool evening air. The streets of New York were bustling with energy, but for some reason, Emma felt a calmness settle over her as she walked beside Liam. "You know," Liam said, breaking the silence, "I've been thinking a lot about you. About your art, about everything. You're really something." "Emma." Emma glanced at him, surprised by the sincerity in his voice. "What do you mean?" He shrugged slightly, his hands tucked into his pockets. "I just mean, you've got something special. And I'm not talking about your art, though that's amazing. I'm talking about you. You're real, Emma. That's rare. Her heart skipped a beat at his words. She had never expected him to say something like that, especially not after everything they had been through, the awkwardness, the uncertainty, the self-doubt. But here he was, making her feel like maybe, just maybe, she was worthy of something more. They stopped walking for a moment, standing in front of a small cafe. The city lights shone brightly, casting a warm glow on everything around them. Liam turned toward her, his expression soft but serious. I know we haven't known each other that long, he said, his voice low, but I feel like I'm starting to understand who you are. And I think there's more to this, more to us, than just a casual connection. Emma's breath caught in her throat. She had known this was coming, but hearing him say it out loud made her heart race. She hadn't been ready for this. She wasn't sure if she was ready to take the next step. But deep down, she knew this was more than just a passing moment. I don't know what this is yet, she said softly, her voice tinged with uncertainty, but I do know that it's something real. Something I'm willing to explore. Liam smiled, and in that moment, Emma felt like she had just made one of the most important decisions of her life. She didn't know what the future held, but for the first time, she was ready to find out. It had been a week since that evening in the park, and Emma couldn't help but think back to Liam's words, to the way he had looked at her with such sincerity. It had been a whirlwind of emotions for her, and even though she tried to keep things light, part of her was starting to feel something deeper. They had continued to see each other, but there was a growing tension she couldn't ignore. Liam was so different from the men she was used to, rich, successful, confident, but he didn't seem like he was just interested in her because of her struggles or her dreams. He actually seemed to care, and that thought alone was both comforting and terrifying. Emma sat in her small apartment one evening, sketching absent-mindedly in her notebook. Her mind was elsewhere, filled with thoughts of Liam and what their future could look like. Was she ready for this? Ready to let someone in, especially someone like him? A part of her still didn't believe it was real, but another part, one that she didn't want to acknowledge, was starting to fall for him. Her phone buzzed, snapping her out of her thoughts. It was a message from Liam. Hey, are you free tomorrow night? I was thinking we could have dinner at my place. She stared at the message for a moment, her heart skipping a beat. Dinner at his place? She had only been to his apartment a few times, and it had always been casual, just coffee or a walk in the park. But this felt different. It felt like a step forward, and she wasn't sure if she was ready for it. She quickly typed back a response, trying to keep her cool. Sure, that sounds great. What time? The reply came almost immediately. 7 p.m., I'll make sure it's something you'll like. Emma smiled at the message, her nerves easing slightly. Maybe this was the moment she needed to take. After all, if they were going to move forward, it had to start somewhere. The next evening, Emma found herself standing outside Liam's apartment, feeling both excited and anxious. She had spent the day trying to figure out what to wear, choosing something simple yet elegant. She didn't want to come off too dressed up, but she also wanted to make a good impression. She took a deep breath before ringing the doorbell. Liam opened the door with a warm smile, his eyes lighting up when he saw her. Hey, you look beautiful, he said, stepping aside to let her in. Thanks, Emma replied, her heart racing. She stepped inside, her eyes taking in the sleek, modern decor of his apartment. It was the first time she had been there for something other than a casual visit, and everything felt a little more intimate. Liam led her to the kitchen, where a bottle of wine sat on the counter, along with a few plates of food that smelled incredible. I thought we could do something simple, he said, uncorking the wine. I made your favorite, pasta with a homemade sauce. Emma raised an eyebrow, surprised. How did you know that was my favorite? Liam grinned. You mentioned it a few weeks ago when we were talking about comfort food. Emma's heart fluttered at the thought of him remembering such a small detail. It wasn't much, but it meant something to her. They sat down at the small dining table, the soft glow of the candles casting a warm light over the room. The conversation flowed easily as they ate, discussing everything from their favorite books to their childhood memories. It felt like a dream, and Emma couldn't help but feel that this was the moment where things were changing, where everything was starting to feel more real. As they finished dinner, Liam leaned back in his chair, his expression turning more serious. "Emma, there's something I've been wanting to talk to you about," he said, his voice softer now. Emma looked up at him, her heart suddenly racing. "What is it?" Liam took a deep breath, his gaze never leaving hers. "I've been thinking about us a lot lately. And I don't want to pretend anymore. What I'm trying to say is that I care about you, Emma. More than just as a friend. I want to see where this goes. I want to be with you." The words hit her like a wave. She had been expecting something like this, but hearing him say it out loud still took her by surprise. For a moment, she didn't know what to say. Her heart was racing, her thoughts all jumbled. "Liam, I don't know what to say," she admitted, her voice shaking slightly. "I'm not sure if I'm ready for this." Liam reached across the table, gently taking her hand in his. "You don't have to say anything right now," he said softly. "I just want you to know how I feel. I'm not asking for anything from you, Emma. I just wanted to be honest with you." Emma looked down at their joined hands, the warmth of his touch sending a shiver down her spine. She didn't know if she was ready for a relationship, especially not with someone as important and successful as Liam. But for the first time in a long time, she wasn't scared of what might happen. Maybe this was her chance to have something real, something that didn't feel like a dream. "I care about you too," she whispered, finally meeting his gaze. "I just need some time to think about everything." Liam smiled, his thumb gently brushing over her hand. "Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere." And with those words, Emma felt a weight lift off her shoulders. She didn't know what the future held, but she knew she was no longer alone. For the first time, she felt like she could take a chance, and maybe, just maybe, it would be worth it. The days that followed Liam's confession felt like a whirlwind for Emma. She had spent so much time trying to keep her emotions at bay, building walls around her heart to protect herself from disappointment, but now, with Liam's words hanging in the air, everything seemed to shift. She couldn't stop thinking about him, about the way he made her feel important, seen, cared for. For the first time in a long time, she was starting to believe that maybe she wasn't just a waitress. Maybe she was worthy of more than the life she had been living. They continued to see each other regularly, each meeting deepening their connection. Emma couldn't help but notice the small ways Liam made her feel special. He remembered the little things, like how she liked her coffee, how she loved visiting small art galleries in the city, and even the songs she hummed when she was nervous. These were things no one had ever paid attention to before, and with Liam, it felt different. It felt real. One evening, Liam invited her to join him for dinner at his apartment again. This time, it wasn't just the two of them, he had planned a small dinner party with a few close friends and colleagues. Emma was nervous, not because of the people, but because it was the first time she would be meeting his circle of friends. She had always felt out of place around people who had so much wealth and success. But Liam assured her that it would be casual, and she shouldn't feel any pressure. When she arrived, she was greeted by Liam with a warm smile, and he immediately made her feel at ease. "You look stunning," he said, his eyes lighting up as he took in her outfit. "I'm glad you could make it." "Thanks," Emma said, feeling a rush of warmth at his compliment. "I'm a little nervous, honestly. I'm not used to being around people like this." Liam chuckled softly. "Don't worry. They're just people, Emma. Everyone here wants you to feel comfortable." As the evening went on, Emma found herself enjoying the company more than she expected. The guests were all kind and welcoming, and there was something refreshing about the way they interacted. They weren't all about business or status, there was a sense of genuine interest in one another, and Emma found herself laughing and joining in conversations with ease. She even had a meaningful chat with one of Liam's colleagues, who worked in the same tech field he did. She realized that despite the glamorous setting, these were just people, people who had their own struggles, their own dreams. At one point during the evening, Liam pulled her aside, away from the main group. "I'm really glad you're here," he said quietly, his tone serious. "It means a lot to me that you're getting to know the people in my life." Emma smiled, touched by his words. "I'm glad too," she said. "I've never been in a place like this before, but I'm starting to feel like maybe I belong here, at least with you." Liam's eyes softened, and he reached out, gently taking her hand in his. "You belong here, Emma. More than you realize." The night went on, and as the dinner party began to wind down, Emma found herself sitting next to Liam on the balcony, looking out over the city. The lights below twinkled like 1,000 stars, and for a moment, everything felt perfect. It was just the two of them again, away from the noise and the distractions. "You know," Emma said softly, her gaze still fixed on the view, "I've been thinking about what you said the other night. About us. And I think I'm ready. I'm ready to see where this goes." Liam turned to her, his expression filled with relief and happiness. "You are?" "Yeah," Emma replied, meeting his gaze. "I'm scared, but I think that's a good sign, right? It means I'm actually feeling something real for the first time." Liam smiled, the warmth of his expression reaching his eyes. "It's a good sign, Emma. I'm right here with you. We'll figure this out together." Emma felt a sense of calm wash over her. For the first time in a long time, she didn't feel like she was just drifting through life. She felt like she was exactly where she was meant to be, with someone who saw her, not just as the waitress who was trying to make it, but as Emma, the woman with dreams, with hopes, and with a heart full of possibility. As they sat there, hand in hand, looking out over the city, Emma knew that this was only the beginning. There were still challenges ahead, still things to figure out, but for the first time, she felt ready to face them, with Liam by her side. It had been a few weeks since Emma and Liam had openly discussed their feelings for each other, and things were progressing at a pace that felt both exciting and overwhelming. The connection between them had only grown stronger, and while Emma had once been hesitant, she was beginning to realize that the uncertainty was part of the journey. She still had her doubts, of course. It was hard to shake the idea that someone like Liam, someone who had everything, could ever truly see her as more than just a passing interest. But he had proven over and over again that he cared, and that meant more to her than she could put into words. One evening, after another one of their long, intimate dinners at Liam's apartment, Emma found herself standing by the window, looking out at the lights of the city. Liam was in the kitchen, cleaning up after their meal, and Emma couldn't help but smile as she thought about how much her life had changed in such a short amount of time. A few months ago, she had been stuck in a routine, working long hours just to get by, too afraid to believe that something better was possible. But now, she had more than just a comfortable routine. She had someone who believed in her, someone who saw her for who she truly was. Liam joined her by the window, standing beside her and looking out at the view. "I think this is my favorite time of day," he said, his voice soft. "When the city is quiet, and everything feels still. Just the two of us, here." Emma turned to him, her heart swelling with affection. "I like it too," she said. Her voice barely above a whisper. "It's peaceful. Like we're in our own little world." Liam reached for her hand, his touch warm against her skin. "We are," he said simply, squeezing her hand. "And I want you to know that I'm here. For all of it, Emma. The good, the bad, everything. I'm not going anywhere." Emma felt her chest tighten at his words, and for a moment, she just stood there, taking in the sincerity in his eyes. She knew that he meant it, and yet the fear of getting hurt still lingered in the back of her mind. It had always been easier to push people away than to let them in, but with Liam, she didn't want to run. She wanted to let him in, to let herself be vulnerable, even if it scared her. "I'm scared," she admitted, her voice small. "I don't know how to do this, Liam. I don't know how to open up completely." Liam's eyes softened, and he stepped closer to her, lifting his hand to gently cup her face. "You don't have to have it all figured out, Emma," he said, his thumb brushing against her cheek. We'll take it one step at a time. You're not alone in this. She closed her eyes for a moment, letting the comfort of his words wash over her. She had been so used to being independent, to handling everything on her own, but with Liam, she realized that maybe she didn't have to do it all by herself. Maybe it was okay to lean on someone, to trust that they would be there when things got tough. As the days passed, Emma found herself slowly letting down the walls she had built around her heart. She still had moments of doubt, of course, but they were fewer and farther between. Liam continued to be patient with her, never pushing her to move faster than she was ready to. And as they spent more time together, Emma realized that what she had with him wasn't just a fleeting romance, it was something real, something worth fighting for. One evening, after a long day of work, Liam surprised Emma with a visit to one of her favorite spots in the city. It was a small, quiet art gallery that she had always dreamed of showcasing her work in. She had been there many times, admiring the pieces on display and imagining what it would be like to one day have her art featured there. But that night, as they walked through the gallery hand in hand, Liam stopped her in front of a blank canvas on the wall. "I've been thinking about something," he said, his voice thoughtful. "What if we made this dream of yours a reality?" Emma blinked, confused. "What do you mean?" Liam turned to face her, his expression serious. "I know you've always wanted to have your own art exhibit, and I think it's time. I want to help you make it happen. I've already spoken to the gallery owner. We can arrange everything, your art, the space, everything you need to showcase it. You just have to say yes." Emma's heart skipped a beat. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. This wasn't just a casual gesture. He was offering her something that could change her life. "Liam, I don't know what to say," she whispered, overwhelmed. "I've dreamed of this for so long, but I never thought it could actually happen." Liam smiled, his eyes filled with warmth. "You deserve it, Emma. You've worked so hard for this, and I believe in you. I believe in your art, and I believe in you." Tears welled up in Emma's eyes, and she quickly wiped them away, feeling a rush of emotion she couldn't quite explain. "Thank you," she said, her voice thick with gratitude. "You're making me believe in myself again. I never thought anyone would take me seriously, but you." Liam gently lifted her chin, making her look up at him. "You've always had it in you, Emma. I'm just helping you see it." As they stood there in front of the empty canvas, Emma knew that this was the beginning of something beautiful. She didn't know where this journey with Liam would take her, but for the first time in her life, she felt ready to face it, with him by her side. The days leading up to Emma's first art exhibit were a blur of excitement and nerves. Liam had followed through with his promise, pulling every string he could to make it happen. He had spoken to the gallery owner, arranged for the space, and even helped her with the logistics, making sure everything was perfect. Emma had never expected any of this, she had never imagined that her dream of showcasing her art would become a reality so soon. But here she was, standing in front of the blank canvas she had once only dreamed about, ready to show the world a piece of herself. As the night of the exhibit approached, Emma found herself battling with a mix of emotions. She was proud of herself for getting this far, but she couldn't shake the feeling that maybe, just maybe, she wasn't good enough for this. What if no one liked her art? What if they saw her as just another struggling artist trying to make it big? The doubts crept in like a shadow, but she pushed them aside. She couldn't let her insecurities stop her from taking this chance. She had to believe in herself, just like Liam believed in her. The evening of the exhibit arrived, and Emma found herself standing in the gallery, taking in the beautifully lit space. The soft, warm glow of the lights bounced off the white walls, highlighting her art as though they were made for this moment. Her heart raced as she looked around at the other people arriving, their whispers of admiration filling the room. She had been so nervous about this night, but now that she was here, she felt a sense of pride she hadn't known she was capable of. Liam walked in a few moments later, his eyes scanning the room before settling on her. He smiled warmly, his presence grounding her in a way that no one else could. "You did it," he said softly, his voice filled with pride. "You made this happen, Emma. I'm so proud of you." Emma smiled, but there was a nervous edge to her voice. I'm just hoping people like it. I never thought I'd be here, you know? It's like a dream I never let myself fully believe in. Liam took a step closer, gently placing his hand on her shoulder. They like it, Emma. I can see it in their eyes. And more than that, they're here because they believe in you. Your art speaks for itself. You've already made it. She looked around again, seeing the people gathered in front of her pieces, some of them nodding appreciatively, others deep in conversation about the meaning behind her work. A few came up to her to introduce themselves, offering compliments and asking about her process. For the first time in her life, she felt like she was being recognized for who she truly was, not just the girl who worked at a diner, but someone who had something valuable to offer the world. As the night continued, Emma felt herself beginning to relax. The nerves that had once gripped her began to fade away as she saw the joy in the faces of the people around her. Liam was by her side the entire evening, his support unwavering. He introduced her to his friends, his colleagues, and even to some of the more influential people in the art world. But through it all, Emma never felt out of place. Liam made sure that she felt like she belonged, like she was meant to be there. By the time the exhibit came to an end, Emma was filled with a sense of accomplishment she hadn't known she was capable of. She had done it. Her art was out in the world, and people had connected with it. As the last guests trickled out of the gallery, Liam took her hand, leading her to the back where they could have a quiet moment alone. You were amazing tonight, Liam said, his voice soft as he looked at her with admiration. You've worked so hard for this, and it's paying off. I couldn't be prouder of you. Emma smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. Thank you, Liam. I never could have done this without you. You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. I'm so grateful for you. Liam cupped her face gently, his eyes searching hers. You don't need to thank me. I just showed you what I saw all along. You've always had the talent. You've always had the strength. I'm just glad I got to be a part of it. As they stood there, wrapped in the quiet of the gallery, Emma realized that this moment wasn't just about the success of the exhibit, it was about the journey they had shared, the growth she had experienced with Liam by her side. For the first time in her life, she didn't feel like she was just waiting for something to happen. She felt like she was living her life, fully and completely. And as she looked at Liam, she knew that this was only the beginning. I think this is just the start, Liam, she said softly, her voice filled with a sense of wonder. I'm ready to see where this takes us. Liam smiled, his hand gently brushing a lock of hair from her face. I'm with you every step of the way. As weeks passed, Emma and Liam continued to grow closer. The bond they shared had become undeniable, and for the first time in her life, Emma felt like she was truly living. Her art was thriving, with her first exhibit behind her and several offers to showcase more of her work. Liam was still by her side, supporting her in ways that went beyond just helping with her career. He was there for her emotionally, lifting her up when her insecurities crept in and reminding her of her worth whenever she doubted herself. Together, they had built something real, something that neither of them had expected. But life, as it always does, was about to throw them another challenge. One evening, Emma and Liam were sitting on the balcony of his apartment, watching the sunset. The city stretched out beneath them, the skyline bathed in the soft golden light of dusk. It was their usual quiet time, just the two of them, with no distractions, talking about everything and nothing. But tonight, there was an unspoken tension in the air, a heaviness that Emma couldn't quite place. Liam, Emma said, breaking the silence. I've been thinking a lot about everything, about us. Liam turned his head to look at her, his expression calm but curious. What about us? She took a deep breath, unsure of how to say what had been weighing on her heart. I know we've been through a lot together. And I know that we're both in a good place right now, but I just feel like there's something more I need to do. Liam furrowed his brow, his hand resting gently on hers. What do you mean? You're doing everything you've dreamed of, Emma. You've got your art, you've got the gallery, and you've got me. What more could you need? Emma hesitated, the words catching in her throat. She had spent so much time focusing on her career and her art that she had pushed her personal life aside, unsure of what it meant to truly open herself up to someone, to allow herself to be loved in a way she had never experienced before. "It's not about the art or the career," she said, her voice quiet but firm. "It's about me, about who I am outside of all of this. I've been so focused on building this life that I forgot to take care of myself, to figure out who I really am." Liam's eyes softened, and he leaned forward, his voice gentle. "Emma, I've always known who you are. You don't need to prove anything to me. You are more than enough, just the way you are. You've already done more than most people ever dream of." She met his gaze, feeling the sincerity in his words. And for the first time, Emma realized something she hadn't fully understood before. She had been so focused on her dreams and her career that she had forgotten to nurture the most important relationship in her life, the one with herself. She wasn't just an artist, she wasn't just someone's partner, she was Emma, a woman worthy of love and care, both from others and from herself. "I know," she whispered, her heart swelling with a mix of relief and emotion. "But I need to figure out what I really want. I want to take some time for me, Liam. Not because I don't love you, but because I need to love myself first. I need to make sure I'm the woman I want to be before I can truly be the partner I want to be." Liam sat back, his expression thoughtful. For a moment, there was silence between them, and Emma worried that she had said something wrong. But then Liam reached for her hand, his touch warm and reassuring. "I understand," he said, his voice calm and understanding. "You've been through a lot, Emma. And if taking some time for yourself is what you need, then I'm here for that. I'll always be here, whether you need space or not. I love you, and I want you to be happy, whatever that looks like." Emma felt a flood of relief wash over her. She hadn't known how he would react, but his support meant everything to her. In that moment, she realized that what they had was real, not just because of the way they cared for each other, but because they were willing to give each other the space to grow, both as individuals and as a couple. "Thank you," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "I'm so lucky to have you." Liam smiled, his eyes warm. "No, Emma. I'm the lucky one." As they sat there, hand in hand, looking out over the city, Emma knew that this was only the beginning of a new chapter in her life. She had come so far already, but now she was ready to face the next phase of her journey, with Liam by her side, supporting her, and with a newfound sense of self-love that would guide her every step of the way.